what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Battlefield Project podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Rhoda, and we are the podcast for people who understand that life is a battle and only the strong will thrive. I'm joined by my friend here, Stacy, who I will introduce in a minute. But before I do, I have just one favor to ask. If you're watching this episode and you get any value out of it, please share it with your friends, family, business associates, whoever you think might get some value from this. The whole purpose of this podcast is basically to inspire everybody out there who listens to it and give you a deeper understanding that every single human being on this earth has to experience battles in their lives. No one goes through life untouched. The difference between people who are living good, happy, optimistic, successful lives are those people will fight their way through those battles and come out stronger on the other side, while the people who are looking like they're unhappy and not living the best life ever, they tend to play the victim card and let those battles defeat them. So my whole goal is to bring on guests, shine a light on them, and have them share some of the battles that they've experienced in their lives and how they fought their way through it, and now the life that they are living because they had the courage and fortitude to fight those battles and win those battles. So without further ado, let me introduce Stacy here. Stacy is a best-selling author, speaker, podcast host, Iraq War veteran, badass biker chick, leadership mentor, authenticity alchemist, executive coach, and boundaries expert. She also is the founder and CEO of the Influential Leadership Mastermind, and her mission in life is to unlock the highest potential and performance in others by shattering the invisible ceiling so they can embody their full purpose while enjoying the ride. She loves to help alpha leaders shift from intimidating to influential by embracing their rebellious side and disrupting the status quo. Stacy has written for and been featured in numerous magazines, including Authority Magazine, Yahoo Finance, and Business Insider. Stacy believes that everything we need to be successful is already within us, and we must give ourselves permission to embody all that we desire. She lives outside Tampa, Florida with her husband, Jeffrey, 2 fabulous motorcycles, and 2 cats. Stacy, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Not to be a Debbie Downer by any means, but literally one of my cats just passed away. So I guess I need to update it. I'm down to one cat. I was like, oh shit. No, you're right.
Yeah, go on that website. Still have 2 motorcycles though, I'm guessing?
I do. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. One is in storage. I need to trade it. I was like, I'm trading in my Striker because I was like, you know what? I need a new bike now, because that bike was great when I lived in PA. But now that I'm in Florida, like just riding and traffic, everything is just different. I need something way more safe.
There you go. Right. Yeah.
Because everybody else is fucking crazy. So I'm literally in love with the new Road Glides. So I was like,
awesome.
Yes, where have you been all my life? Amazing Road Glides.
Yeah.
So that's on.
Are you gonna get a second cat, or is just one cat good at this point?
Depends on how she's feeling. She's kind of gone. She's starting to rebound now that we're back from 2 weeks in Mexico. She's starting to rebound a bit on just settling into life solo here with just us. And yesterday was actually the first day since we've been back. She started really getting back to her normal self. So we'll see. We were kind of like, well, we'll just play it by ear and see how she does. And potentially if we do need to get somebody for her, we may look, because she's 10 now, so we might actually look at adopting an adult or senior cat, because then you know what you're gonna get, and not everybody wants to adopt old. They always want a kid. So
that's what I said to my wife recently. Once these dogs grow older, I have 2 younger, 7 and 8. I was like, once our kids are grown up, I just want to adopt old dogs. Like, I love dogs. I was like, I just want to be that guy that like gets like the 10-year-old or 11-year-old dog who has like 1 or 2 years left, and like show them the best life ever for the last little bit, help them transition into the afterlife, and just keep doing that over and over and over again. Because like everyone wants the puppies, and it's like they're great too, but that's like a 10-15 year commitment. Whereas these other ones, it's like let them enjoy their last years being loved. So
true. Or like mine, where he was only 7 and we were on vacation. We seem to have a trend, but our pets die while we're on vacation, and it's not the fault of other people. But he was a big giant. We called him a Shepherdman because he was 2 purebred parents, a Doberman mom and a German Shepherd dad. So he was our Shepherdman. But he was 120 pounds of I just want to sit on your lap. But I guess he was out playing with the in-laws dog, and big dogs, it's easy for their stomach to flip. And he came in and pretty much boop, just done. His stomach flipped and he died. Like literally while we were driving home from vacation. And I was like, what the hell? So, you've invested all that time. I trained him to be a therapy dog for myself, recovering from my own trauma and addiction.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we're getting him certified to go do it elsewhere. And then obviously he dies on you. And I'm just like, what the hell? Damn it.
There's battle number one.
Battle number one.
Yeah.
But you know, the value of that experience with it being such a jarring thing was, as hard as it was going through my recovery journey, like post rock bottom, that even though I was better for kind of this 2 years, I didn't realize how much I was still crutching on him as like relying on him emotionally to be there. And then when I didn't have him, I was like, oh, well, damn, I'm really having a hard time here. And just having to be in ownership of, wow, I'm still using something external to feel better.
Yep. Well, beautiful. Let's jump into it now that we're done talking about death and dogs and cats and
right.
all the morbid
Bringing
stuff
everybody down.
Yeah, geez, let's try to lighten it up a little bit with some other battles. But yeah, I'm excited to hear. Before we hit the record button, you mentioned like, oh boy, which one do I pick? And I feel like that's probably most people have like, I mean, that's how I said, like everybody has battles. Like the degree of them differ person to person and severity and length of them. But I feel like everybody has battles and pretty consistently through life. It's just that's the beauty of life in some ways, is like you don't get the good without the bad. So I'm interested to hear which one you pick out here to talk about.
Well, you know, it's funny because I mean, even being able to remove the judgment of calling something good or bad, right? Because hindsight is 2020, and I would never change any single experience that I've had in my entire life because I wouldn't be who I am today without any of that. And I'm functioning in such a place of gratitude. But the biggest lesson that I have learned when it comes to understanding the battles we're facing is every battle you're experiencing externally is a reflection of the war you're raging with yourself. If you want to get to the root of stop to no longer be fighting against everything external, it's start bridging the gap and begin building a relationship with you instead of fighting against yourself all of the time. So that was the one common denominator in every single time I've had a big either bitch slap from spirit, a big blowout in my business, a big like catalyzing, almost about ready to end it all in my marriage experience. It always was an opportunity for me to stop and say, wow, okay, this is a beautiful mirror reflection of where I am still not being my best. Because new level, same devil. The further you go into stepping into your greatness, your power, your influence, your impact, anything you want to do externally with getting your goals, it requires you to up level. But every up level means creating that externally. You've got to shed another layer deeper internally in healing your own inner worthiness wounds, shifting, you know, taking off the masks with yourself, getting really radically honest and responsible. And so yeah, I mean, I just went through that actually. I just spent 15 days in Mexico, and it was just wild to see this most recent iteration of kind of that same thing. And so I'll kind of talk about the most recent one. I mean, people can check my podcast or really any interview I've done anywhere, any public speaking. They're all over the internet to get that rock bottom story. They can get it in my book, all of that. So but what just happened was really 2022 was just a busy, crazy year. We stepped into a lot of new things. I started my second company. I hired my husband into that company. We had some other family. We added additional team. We grew really quickly, and it was just a lot of different things that created busyness for both of our lives, specifically my husband and myself. And it was crazy because we're both traveling. We're both doing a lot of amazing big things. We're both growing exponentially as individuals. But what we ended up realizing by the end of 22, we're like, wow, we are really disconnected. Like, and we could feel it. And it was creating a lot of challenges with communication, you know, definitely lacking some of that deep emotional connection and intimacy because we've been disconnected by time and geography. But what was interesting was it was accelerating stuff that was way older because we're about to hit 20 years in our marriage. So we got some old unresolved shit, right? But like the two kids that entered into this relationship were so dysfunctional. Like we both came from deep, big T childhood trauma. Like we both came from some fucked up shit. And so there was a lot of bonding over that because we both were like, okay, you know, you're fucked up, I'm fucked up, you know, it's cool. No judgments. And we both coped in the same unhealthy ways. And so it was really interesting, right? Misery loves company, and we both numbed out in the same way together. So it works for the first, you know, few years in a relationship. So needless to say, we got to this place and just this past year, and we were like, okay, we need to take this trip and reconnect. It always is good for us to take a trip, get out of life and reconnect. And what was weird is it had actually been a year since we did that together. And we're like, okay, that's problem number one. Two is all of the stuff that had happened over the year was accelerating what was already there. And it was really interesting because we got there and it was for the purpose to like say, okay, we need to reconnect or figure out something. And I think the most real raw aspect was our willingness to not be attached to expectation or outcome. Like we were both in that place that if it makes the most sense for us to say we're done, we both knew that would be really hard, but we were okay with respecting that as the outcome if that was what needed to happen. So that I think was the best intention for everything, that we weren't attached to outcome, but we were like, okay, it's time to get really real and really raw. So pretty much the first week of shedding life was really hard because we dove into the deep end and it was the suck. But what was really interesting was how quickly we realized we're like, wait a minute, none of this is productive. We're talking about all this old shit and we're sitting having these same conversations over and over. And we both kind of had this epiphany at the same time of like, this isn't going anywhere. Why are we still talking about this shit? Like, why are we trying to fix something that's broken? And then we were like, wait, all right. You're doing good. You're growing. You're evolving. I'm doing good. I'm growing. I'm evolving. But the only place either of us is dimming our light is in this relationship. I'm good supporting him, like going to do stuff to support him. He's good coming to do stuff to support me, but it's only when we're engaging in the marriage, right? Like the relationship. And even though I'd heard it before about the marriage being this third entity, this was the first time that I was like, wait a minute. The marriage is the problem, not you're the problem. And I'll tell you, like, this is a common challenge with people who are in the personal and professional development industry. Like, God save anybody who's married to a coach. Like, seriously, like seriously. But it was getting to that place where I was like, this isn't my shit. Like, I know this is not my shit, what I was feeling. I was like, okay, why do I feel like I'm not engaging in a relationship with my husband, but I'm constantly defending myself against a 15-year-old version of me? And I'm like, so I'm like, no, that's not me. That's you. But it was all of a sudden, it just was this clear, like ding, 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 the light bulb goes off to where I stopped pushing that back onto him. And I said, wait, it's the marriage. And then all of this shit we were both feeling, we moved out of either of us being in ownership of, which was just profound. And so we move it over to this third entity and we're like, okay, we're looking at the relationship as this other thing. We recognize we made it, we built it, and we've ignored it. We have not nurtured allowing that part to grow and evolve in the same way that he and I have been growing and evolving over the last decade or more. So we're like, okay, do we fix it? Do we work on it? And we both came to agreement, like, just fucking let it die.
Yeah.
Burn it down. And it's interesting how many people who've been married for a really long time were like, their eyes get really big, like deer in the headlights. They're like, but what if you burned it down and you couldn't make anything new? I'm like, we were okay with that.
Yeah.
And that is the bold move, being bold and brave enough to say, you know, if it's time to let go, because that would have meant I was still functioning in fear. To say that I need him from fear versus going into building a relationship because I choose to be in partnership with somebody. So like, that was my medicine to say, okay, like, I'm okay with this, you know, and I mean, it's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard, but, and we were just both in total agreement. We're like, just fucking burn it down. Just let it die. And we were both just like, okay. And literally like a light switch, it was just gone.
Yeah.
We removed us being in ownership of keeping something that wasn't working, and we got rid of it.
Yeah.
And we shifted into, okay, the following week was, let's build something new. Let's start at the absolute brand new, creating new rules of engagement in just for ourselves as individuals and for the relationship we want to create. And that's what we're doing now. And it's weird and it's really uncomfortable because this is consciously changing our behavior every single day to do something different, reflecting who we desire to be as individuals and as a couple.
Yeah.
And so it was basically saying, we're done fighting this battle against each other over something that isn't even in the same decade as who we are today. Because again, it was like a 15, 20-year-old version of both of us. And it's like, this is why we're constantly triggered in these defensive cycles and being like passive aggressive. And the only place we're showing up shitty is like here. And I'm like, why? Right? Like, it's crazy. So, but at the same time, for me, this was a lot of being willing to let this be a mirror of, okay, how have I been contributing to not nurturing the relationship, like swallowing every freaking pill and slice of humble pie, like just, okay, wow, right? This is the coaches where you are literally so far along in your journey, you start using this as a way to actually disconnect yourself from people on purpose. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. Where else has my ego been showing up? Well, Stacy, look at where you've been very transactional in your relationships as opposed to transformational. I was like, fuck. Right? So like, I'm sitting in this place and I'm every single day right now, because this is an active transformation period. Every day I am looking at what can I do differently today? And I had to just rebuild how I'm entering into my new year. And for me, somebody who's all about freedom and flow, well, that's a feeling, that's an experience. What is the doing that's required to create that? Well, for me this year, it's systems.
Yeah.
So I am systematizing everything from how I engage with people, how often I connect with people, and really systematizing everything in my world so I can be fully present for people and not go into stress, not disconnect, because I was like, wow, I really need to give the people that I care about the best of me. And that means I need to be 100% present.
Yeah.
And it has been strategic systems and processes being implemented to change how everything functions, from how I self-lead to how I lead my team and my business, to how I engage in my marriage and my relationships. And it truly is fundamentally going back to, I'm no longer waging the war with myself, because the marriage was the collateral damage.
Yeah. Wow. So
Well,
it's not your average vacation is what I'm gathering from this.
Well, it was painful, but at the same time, it was beautiful. It was powerful, and it was so impactful because, I mean, it's changing everything. It's changing myself, my leadership, how I impact, how I serve, how I'm showing up. It's crafted new content where I'm like, I know there's other people out there experiencing this, and just putting the posts out about the work that we're doing. I mean, the feedback I got from people, it is amazing how many people's marriages are struggling, because at the end of the day, it's easy for us to hustle in business. We have control over it, and we can actually stay in our little bubble and feed the walls and our ego and not have to engage in the hard shit.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of opportunities to impact in a way bigger way just by leaning into my own journey.
So let me ask you this, and I kind of have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be, but I'm curious to see how you explain your answer. You went into that conversation, that vacation conversation with your husband of like, if we get to a point where we realize it's like no longer serves us, we're okay with that like outcome. You know, we're comfortable with either outcome, whether it's we get stronger or we say goodbye. And then you both collectively decide, let's burn it down because it's not serving us anymore. Kind of let's start from scratch. With the decision to start from scratch, did you attach any kind of expectation of like, okay, so now we're back at ground zero, which is like scary, but also freeing. Is there any hope or expectation of where it goes? Or is it kind of just like, we're starting like at day one in essence, and we're going to like pour into each other, and we're going to, you know, we're each going to own our shit. We're going to do this the right way, you know, moving forward with like a ... I hope this is the outcome, or still with the expectation of no expectation, which is like, yeah, we're going to pour into each other. We're going to reframe our relationship. We're going to go all in on it. We're kind of starting from scratch. But if we still do that and we get to the point a year from now, 3 years from now, where it's still like we get back to the point where we're kind of bashing heads again and it's still not what we want, we'll burn it down again and say goodbye potentially? Or is it kind of like, this is a hard reset and we're going to make this work and this is how we're going to do it?
So actually, it was kind of none of those.
Okay.
So one, I mean, expectations, it's a control issue. It's just trying to control outcomes or other people or whatever in your head. So at the end of the day,
you can't do it.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Right. Expectations is a control issue. And for me, hope is a 4-letter word. I tell people all the time, I said, hope is just a pretty word for expectation.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So in many ways too, hope is almost like try, but without action. Right. I'm not going to try it. I hope it happens, but I really don't believe it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's kind of a lot of mindfuckery there. But so the difference is there's no attachment to outcome or expectation, yet there is clarity around the vision of what both of us intend to create.
Yeah.
So where that was our error in the past, we never focused on saying, okay, me, here's what I want. Here's my goals, my vision. Taking what's his goal, what are his goals and his vision? And then where do we weave those together to co-create a collective vision of what we desire? Like painting that picture of that future self, right? We do it all the time in individual visioning. Yeah. We never gave ourselves that time or space to do it as a couple.
Yeah.
So, and that was actually one of the pain points. You know, I am the visionary, he's the integrator in the marriage, right? Yeah. There's always that balance within a relationship like that, a long-term relationship. And so because he was the type of person who lacked a vision, well, I always have vision. So I was steamrolling him, not giving him the space or whatever to create what he wanted. But at the same time, that was my emotional shit and my control issues that, well, I need to feel safe. So I need to know where we're going. Yeah. So if you don't have any idea, fuck off. We're going to go somewhere.
My lead. We're going.
Here we go, you know? Yeah. So, but you know, and that's why I even did that post the one day. I said, hey, visionary leaders, you know, stop steamrolling your partner. You're not giving them you're suffocating them and not giving them space to actually show up to the partner that you want, because it was a way I was actually keeping him down, because I wasn't creating space for him to step up and step in and lean in. Cause I'm like, nope, guess what? Ego. Walls are still up, and this is how I'm feeding them. Yeah. So, but what we did is we approached it from ground zero. So it's almost like hitting the reset button on the video game without losing everything you've learned along the way or earned along the way, right? So we're hitting the reset on the result in what we're building without having to, lose any of the points and experiences we've learned along the way. But so we're going into it totally new in terms of completely new rules of engagement. This is how I'm choosing to show up for myself. This is how I'm choosing to show up for my relationship. This is how I'm choosing to communicate. This is my minimum standards. Like, we're communicating boundaries based on who we are now. Cause I know 20 years ago we had none. So it was easy for us to disrespect and trigger and be passive aggressive and do all our dumb shit. Yeah. We don't want that anymore. So in order for both of us to feel safe and have open lines of communication, you know, we have our minimum standards. So it's finding the baseline of the minimum standards for both of us. So basically, what does it mean to feel respected? Since that's the highest form of love.
Yeah.
Loved, feel connection. You know, those things that we want within the relationship as that foundation. And then what is that future vision that we're co-creating together? The how in between, not our job.
Yeah.
Right? Just like business, everybody says, yeah, you know, I mean, whether you say it's God, universe, whatever, you got to do the things for you to be the best you right now and be open to receive, know where you're going, the big future vision, but all the how in between, you got to let go of control of that because it's not your job.
Yeah.
You know, I think about all the opportunities that have come into my business, my life, my relationships, all the things. Most of the shit I never planned on. And had I been so dialed in on my little perfectionist control issue-y self that I was, recovering type A control freak, I never would have let any of that in.
Yeah.
And the number one most important thing for me right now is truly receiving, because that has been the biggest cock block that I have. And that's most of us, especially as visionary, high-performing leaders, is we are the cock block to everything that we want.
Yeah.
And we don't receive.
Yeah.
We don't receive the love. We don't receive the support. At the end of the day, if you're like, fuck, I'll just do it myself, right? Like, no. So slowing down, and this has been the biggest, you know, like brakes on, slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
I have a sneaky suspicion that within a month or two, like massive shit's gonna blow up, like in a good way, you know, personally, in my business, in my relationships, opportunities coming in, because I can feel that even though it is uncomfortable as hell, I'm not only sitting in the discomfort, I am no longer soothing the discomfort with every unhealthy thing that I did in the past to avoid it. I'm just sitting in it. It's okay. I am recognizing I am uncomfortable and I am okay with it.
Yep.
And I recognize this is my growth edge and I'm not going to avoid it anymore. So no longer numbing my pain or my power.
Yeah. This has been therapeutic for me, I have to say. Like the last 2 minutes of everything you just said, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's like talking about me and like speaking to me about like being my own way and like, you know, being open to receiving and slowing down to speed up. And I just said, Wednesday night I was on a podcast and I was talking to a guy, and, you know, my family of 6, doing okay, well, financially not anywhere where I think I can be or we should be or like we need to be, where I earned to be, like with the last 20 years of like working hard and being disciplined, etc. And I said to the guys on the calls, like, I have a feeling, like, ask me in 6 months or a year from now where I'm at financially, it's going to be a totally different conversation I'm going to have with you, because I've been laying the foundation for 10, 15 years. But there's always, I'm starting to do the inner work, and I'm starting to like forgive myself for past transgressions that I've always thought, like subconsciously, like, yeah, I deserve to like succeed financially in life, but there's a bigger piece of me or another piece of me that's like, no, you don't, because like you were a dickhead growing up and you like hurt people and you like made all the wrong decisions for 15 years of your life. And I don't really believe that, but it's a chatter in the back of my head that constantly is there, that I'm like now recognizing it, being like, okay, I'm going to gently put you to sleep, because like that's not who I am anymore, and like that doesn't dictate my future. So I think this is all fucking awesome to hear and powerful to hear, because it's just another like affirmation from the universe or God or whatever you want to call it, that like stay the path. Because, and even I want to ask you, if you don't mind, when you talk about creating the vision for like your ideal marriage and relationship, and you kind of collectively do that, what day was that? It might have even been Wednesday too. I listened to a podcast and it was about creating a vision with your spouse, and I'm like, holy crap, I've never done that. Like I'm married for 7 years, 6 or 7 years. I should know the exact number. I don't. 6 or 7 years. We have 4 kids, and like we're definitely going in the same direction. We want the same things out of life, but we've never clearly put down on paper or spoken to each other what the ideal future for us looks like. It's kind of like, yeah, raise a happy, healthy family. Like, ta-da, like, okay, that's cool. But like, do we want a beach house? I do. Like, does she? Or like, does she want to go back to teaching eventually? Or does she want to be a stay-at-home mom and like have a side passion project? All these things that have just kind of been like the great unknown floating around, that I feel like if we get clear on, then I can work harder, smarter, more passionately to like serve my purpose, which complements her purpose. So collectively we can serve our purpose as a relationship. my question then is like, how far into the future do you create that vision? Because that's what I said to Helen when we were driving. She was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, I don't know if we would do that till like we're 80. I was like, because 40 years from now, like so much can change. But like part of me thinks you go that deep, but then part of me thinks maybe like a 5-year, 10-year vision, because that's like in the immediate future that you can, I'm gonna use the word that you don't want me to use, but like control, or like at least kind of see coming down the pipeline. What's the plan for that?
So I have learned to eliminate timeframes.
Yeah.
Just like I generally, for the most part, eliminate money goals, because again, they tend to be too limiting. So if I do have, I'm very different in how I approach goal setting, and it's still very tactical and strategic, but I focus on the process goals, not the outcome goals. So it's changing up the processes every 90 days to support whatever that outcome is. So, you know, because at the end of the day, going back to control issues, every outcome we can't control.
Yeah.
We can only control the process to influence the outcome.
Yeah.
So what we do is I focus on stepping into my highest self, right? Whether this is about envisioning your perfect day. Well, what does it look like? You know, what are you doing? What is the house you're waking up in? Where is it at? You know, what is that kind of morning routine? Where, you know, where's your partner in this scenario, right? Like it's eliminating the time frame, because time is so three-dimensional. You know, it's just this man-made construct that's totally bullshit. And the second we start throwing time in there, one of two things is going to happen. We either start forcing it to be within a certain time frame, which inadvertently creates resistance and then blocks us from what we want. Or the second we throw time frame or dollar amount, that old bitch voice is going to start coming in and creating all of those beliefs are going to start coming up and getting triggered. And if you don't have the toolkit to effectively process and release it immediately, or the self-awareness to say, oh, I see you. Okay. This is a messenger, use my tools, get rid of it, move forward quickly. Like if you don't have that skill set, capacity, or work with, you know, coaches or a team to support you with that, like then we go into the sabotage in a different way. So yeah, I just say, okay, when I did that visioning in 2018, me at highest self was an author speaking on stage. Doing that visioning now, it's different, right? Like it's that house on the beach. We've got the boat, can hear the water in the morning, get the coffee, sitting outside, you know, that kind of thing. Right. And I don't know what the beach is. I don't know what the island is. I don't know if this is my permanent house or if this is a vacation house or whatever, like, but I know what the vision is. Yeah. And I know who I'm with, and I know what I'm doing. And I know more than anything, how I feel. Yeah. So, but it's things like, right. But it's big, right? Yeah. It's good stuff. And it's not something we generally give ourselves the space to jump into. And that's why this is so much of the slow down to speed up. I mean, and what's really powerful is this is something most coaches and organizations and mentors are missing out on. So this is a thing why when I created Influential, we were so holistic, because I was like, you're not showing up as part of you. You're showing up as all of you. So why are you only working on part of you? Right? Like just bananas. So I see these people working with the business coaches, but what's falling apart is they're still internally a shit show. Yeah. Well, your business is going to still suffer. So if that business coach isn't actually helping you with the real problem, no amount of systems and strategies is going to save you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then I see people doing the inner work, and that's great that you're doing that energy work or that emotional healing. But if you're not also addressing the physical manifestation, basically the stored trauma in your body, you might be sitting here doing tapping and releasing and reprocessing emotions, but there's still residue of that in your physical being. If you're not integrating physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all at the same time, you're going to end up spread way too thin. Because I don't know about you, but my brain's way up here, right? Like my mind, I can see all the things like way ahead. You know, I'm that visionary thinker. So brain can get way too fast, way ahead, Body might be in whatever state here in the present, emotional way back here if I don't keep that in check, because you know, that's what I used to do with it. That's default, dragging all that baggage along way in the back. And your poor spirit is stretched thin, trying to keep it all together. And so people are going through this cycle of feeling totally maxed out and yet never reaching their potential. And that is a pain point I see all the time. You can feel that wealth of untapped potential waiting to be unleashed, just calling you for more. And you're so maxed out. Yeah. Because, right, we're completely scattered and everywhere. We couldn't even imagine trying to take on utilizing that potential because there's no bandwidth to do it. Yeah. So that is the missing piece. That is literally step one in my process of influential leadership, is integrated identity, because we got to get all of those in the same place at the same time to optimize. Yeah. Then you implement the leadership skills, the business strategies, the shifts in the relationships, all of that external stuff, because now you started optimizing your time, your energy, you are in mastery of your emotions, you're in mastery of your mindset, and the thoughts and the beliefs no longer run the show. Now everything starts working. Yeah. But everybody's always chasing the external stuff first. I was like, your cash flow problems are not a business problem. They're a you problem. You know, your relationship problems are not a them problem. It's a you problem. You know, the first question I ask people, I'm always like, so, hey, how's the accountability, you know, going in your business? Right? How are you good? Are you good at holding your team accountable? And they're like, oh my God, accountability sucks. I said, where else is that showing up? What are the consequences with your kids? And they're like, fuck. I'm like, yeah, how you do one thing is how you do everything, legit. Right? Like, but totally. There's evidence everywhere of it. I'm like, yeah, where do you keep canceling on yourself, not holding yourself accountable? Yeah. It's a cascade. So 80% of it is inner work. Yeah. Then like 15% is leadership in the sense of relationship management, right? How do we communicate? How do we influence? How do we inspire? How do we hold people accountable? How do we hold the boundaries with ourselves and with others? Then that last 5% is just systems and strategies for business. Yeah. It seems so Which is such a small simple. Part compared to what you're taught for most people. Most people, it's, you got to have strategies, and then it can all work itself out. And you're like, okay. And you start doing it. And like you said, you're still like spinning your wheels, getting nowhere. And you're like, but I got all the strategies in place. I got all my systems down. It's like, okay, like you're still not right though. So it doesn't matter how many strategies and systems you have. Yeah. You see it all the time. The course junkies, the program junkies, the workshop junkies, they're just going all the time, you know, consume, but never implement anything. I've said for a while now, and I don't know, I haven't talked, like, thank you for this conversation. Let me say that really quick before like anything else, because it's like freeing for me, because I've had the conversations with myself internally before where I'm like, I don't care to be the best business owner in the world. I don't care to be like the best athlete, like fitness, you know, like I love fitness and health. I don't need to be the healthiest or fittest person in the world. I don't need to be the best dad in the world. Like I want to be a great dad, but like the best in the world, or the best husband. I want to be the best at being really, really good in all those areas of my life. Like I don't need to be the best spiritual being on this earth, but I want to be a really good, like I want to integrate and have harmony in all those different areas of my life that I can show up. And I find peace in that. But then part of me thinks, like, the analytical, whatever part of me is like beats myself up. And it's like, well, it's only because you're not the best business person in the world that you're saying you're okay not being the best business person in the world. And I'm like, fuck, is it like, should I want to be the best business person in the world? Or is it okay? And like for me to want to be really good at all of those as opposed to the best at one or two of them. And I feel like after hearing you talk, it's okay to do that, because being the best and I say this all the time, like the guys who make, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars, but are sloppy in their personal life or have terrible relationships. Like or they're on marriage number 6. Yeah, like you can pay me money to be one of like fill those shoes or like any of that stuff. So I feel like I'm on the right path, but then sometimes I question it because like I said earlier, I'm like, I deserve more financial success, or I feel like I've earned more financial success, but I don't have it yet. So it's just this like constant chaos in my head and like confusion to my soul level. And I'm like,
I know I'm on the right path. Like I know I'm doing what I need to do and I'm living my purpose and it will all work out at the deepest levels. I totally trust that. And it's like right there at my fingertips and it's coming to fruition. But on the human level, sometimes it just gets to be like a jumble fuck of mess in my head.
Well, you are exactly like everyone else. So
Yeah.
no one listening to this who's also like, oh my God, that's me. Just a
Yeah.
reminder, none of us are special. We are all the same.
Yeah.
It is just this shame story that keeps us all disconnected and believing or thinking we're the only one, because it's not the case. So what's really, really interesting is everything that you said. What that comes down to is it's actually an identity issue. And the reason I say it's an identity issue is because I just did research on this, right? Statistics show 70% of entrepreneurs come from hardcore trauma in childhood. 90% of entrepreneurs come from at least childhood adversity, whether it's poverty, instability, whatever, even if it's not like abuse or whatnot, right? And what's interesting about that is the benefit is our ability to work in chaos and be tolerant of working in chaos, managing stress, instability. We're really, really resourceful with problem solving. But the consequence of growing up in childhood adversity is most of us have no boundaries. We don't understand how to create internal safety. And that's really what boundaries are. And if especially we grew up in an environment where there was a lack of safety in some form or another, what happens is we focus on everything external. Because if I pay attention to pleasing, appeasing, paying attention to everything external, and this is what creates control issues, this is survival. I don't know who I'm getting before dad comes home today. So I need to be very hyper vigilant and pay attention to all the subtle cues so I know how to respond to him, right? That kind of shit. So when you struggle with boundaries as a child, what you never learn is how to create your own identity. Everything's focusing on everything external. The one relationship we never build is the one with ourselves. And so that's why the identity work for so many entrepreneurs is vital, because at the center of the circle is you, not dad, not husband, not business owner, not income earner, none of that. All of those are just branches off of you. They're roles that you play based on the life you've created. But you, my friend, are in the center. But if there's anything getting in the way of that, that's where we get the stories. That's where we get the unworthy, the inner worthiness wounds still coming up to say, not receiving. So when I hear people doing the work in their business and feeling like they're right on the precipice, right? They're just at that plateau, ready to break through. My first question to everybody, especially when it comes to like the income side, is I always ask, okay, so where are you blocking yourself from receiving? It seems a simple question, but as we start digging through the layers, it always goes back to some sort of an identity issue. And it's why it's so vital to integrate that stuff from the beginning. Then go outwards. Then it's the cascade, because everything else becomes easier. I always function in this place of influential as creating, not only is it the highest form of leadership, because it's simply who you're being, but you're able to create this effortless success that still requires effort. But things no longer feel hard. Right? We're really stepping into this leveraged lifestyle. And it is about harmony. Anytime we approach it I always say balance is bullshit, because balance is trying to have an equation. The math equation that says X equals what? And balance will never be created. It's the equation, the unsolvable equation. So if we stop looking at it like math and we shift over to harmony, where you're harmonizing and integrating the things that are important to you based on priorities and how you choose to invest your time and energy, then you can experience that. You can experience harmony, which is really being in flow with whatever it is you want to create right now.
All right. So I have some work to do. I feel like I should Venmo you money for like a coaching session after this. Like I've never gotten off of like one of these calls and I'm like, I feel like I just like learned. So, I mean, I learned through each of these episodes from like just people's stories and you pick little nuggets and stuff. But like, I feel like this was like a 55-minute download that I just did and like that you poured into me. So thank you. It's like,
You're
seriously,
welcome.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Any final thoughts or anything you want to share, or where can people connect with you online? Because I'm friends with you on Facebook and I know you add value to people's lives, but now after this, I'm like, go find this lady and connect with her because my goodness.
Now you know what your next steps are because the universe has told you you're ready. And it happens to me all the time. People are always like, oh my God, I was literally asking for answers. And then here you pop in. I'm like, God, universe, whatever it is, will place me in your path when you are ready because we do big work.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
totally
like, this is not for the faint of heart, but it's also for the people who are done playing small.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So you can find me at stacyraske.com. You can just type in Stacy Raske on the interweb and good old Google will send you to me as I am pretty much the only one online. Nice. Really in the world. There's one Stacy married into the family who I'm subtly making famous by telling that story, but I am the only Googleable one.
Right. You're indexed by Google.
Yes, I am indexed by Google. I was born with a branded name. So,
Beautiful.
You know, Raske is my maiden name that I made my middle name when I got married. So it's funny.
There you go.
And then beinfluential.com is the landing page for our alpha leadership experience. If anybody's like, holy fuck, Stacy just blew my mind, I need to apply to be a part of our ecosystem, that's where you go. Awesome. And then, you know, we do a lot with people really stepping into their authority and influence as well by getting their signature, their book out, you know, very quickly and being able to leverage that to really scale their impact quickly because everybody in our ecosystem is very purpose and impact driven. And obviously the money always follows, you know, people 2x, 4x, 5x their income quickly because they're showing up and being their best and doing it in community.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. Like really, truly thank you. Like you said it perfectly. I feel like you could have scheduled this call like a month ago and I don't think it would have been enjoyable and I'm sure I would have gotten something out of it. But I feel like the way this week has gone and the way the last couple of weeks have gone in my life and the thoughts I've had and the feelings I've had and the conversations I've had with myself and others, this was like the perfect conversation at the perfect time. So I don't take that lightly. And I think God delivered you or universe, whoever, like to be my guest at 12 p.m. on Friday, the 24th after this week, the way it was. So thank you, God. Thank you, Stacy. Whoever out there is watching this, reach out to her, connect with her, go through her programs if you can. But yeah, share this with friends and family. I feel like this is a free coaching session that you can thank me for later because most of the episodes don't go an hour. And if they do, I feel like it's kind of dragging on a little bit. This one, I'm like, I could have probably just like asked 100 more questions and gone for 2 hours, but I want to respect your time and everyone that's listening. So thank you for listening. Stacy, thanks for being here. I really appreciate the friendship and you pouring into our audience today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It was truly an honor.
My pleasure. All right, everybody. I'll see you on the battlefield.